apparently where I am is not often good enough for me, because I think I should be somewhere else. And I want to get this. I just feel like I have so many things to do.
But you know, what you're saying is a trap that you can't get out of. In other words, there's no way we can help you out of this. So we've got to deal with the trap itself. And the trap that you just expressed is, what was it?
What was it? That I just want to...
I'm just not getting there fast enough, and there's so many things that I need to do, and,
right,
and I'm not going about it in the right way. And that's why we've been talking about making peace with where you are, because you see, the universe is responding to your now vibration. So if your now vibration is, I'm doing something wrong, and the universe is responding that, then everything has to turn out more like that.
And I know that. I get it.
Now, let's give you something here that'll make you feel better. So Esther thinks that of all of people on the planet who should get it, she should get it.
Right.
And so... and so, as she is having 2 really terrible days in a row over feeling powerless because she can't control what happens to things she cares about when she's not there, or even when she is there, and she recognizes the wrongness is not the right word, but the problem with looking at it in that way. She knows she shouldn't be there, but is just the same. And so she looks for relief in all the immediate places and doesn't find it. And so she comes to the conclusion that I'm on my own in this. And so she sits and applies a process until she feels herself restored. And then she's so eager to announce to Jerry how much better she feels. And he is not really interested in how much better she feels, because he never felt that bad about how bad she felt. Because no one feels it like you do. And then Esther is triumphant, and she called 2 or 3 people that she had already drawn into this about how it needed to be fixed, to let them know that there was nothing that needed to be done, because she had contemplated having all of the stones removed. She had contemplated jackhammering it out and replacing it again. She had contemplated jackhammering it all out and replacing it all with something that couldn't be stained. She had contemplated replacing the gardeners altogether. She had contemplated many things, and now she is uncontemplating them, and she's making phone calls to say, I've changed my mind, everything's all right, it's all right how it is, I'm going to live with it. In fact, maybe I even like it because it looks sort of rustic and old like the house really is. So Esther thought that she had resolved that pretty well, and now they're on their way to meet daughter and granddaughter and grandson for lunch, and they are 7 minutes before they need to go out the door, and Esther races back into the kitchen to grab her cell phone, only to find that the washing machine which is running has spilled all over the kitchen floor. It is running big gushes of water. And so she called Mike, who is on the property all of the time, he and his crew, and he came running, and they were able to stop the flood and figure out what had happened. But in that, which was just, as you said, sort of more of the same, Esther's response to it was entirely different, because she had achieved her new point of view. And we want to say, if the flood had come before she had moved herself up the emotional scale, it might have killed her. In other words, it's that the worse it gets, the worse it gets, the worse it gets, the worse it gets. And so Esther is saying, what is going on here? And Jerry could not resist the temptation of saying, yes, I wonder. And Esther knew that it was his way of saying, it's just more of your negative attraction. And Esther got it, even though he didn't say it. That is what he meant. And she began to laugh, because now she's in her place of alignment. Now that doesn't matter. Now none of that matters. Now that former point of attraction, in other words, she could feel that it was just the residual of what she had going on. And she knew that the curse had lifted, that the curse had broken. She could tell by the way she felt that she was back in alignment. And it didn't matter how many things had to keep going wrong, that the momentum of them was already started by her 2-day funk. She knew that it was all right, in other words. And so what we're saying to you is, as you just have to take a stand somewhere and say, all right, I'm going to work myself into feeling better. And right now, the curse has lifted. And as you keep taking that stand that says, I insist on feeling better for no good reason other than I want to feel good. I insist on feeling better for no good reason other than that I know I can feel better than I do. In other words, you just have to finally decide that you have control about the way you feel, and then stay there until you feel a little bit better, and then pat yourself on the back and celebrate all over the place, and don't expect other people to agree with you or to understand you, because they weren't where you were anywhere, just until you get your sea legs in this. And before you know it, that cycle that feels like it's going that way will begin to go that way. Because in all of that creation that feels like it's not going the way you want it to, you've launched many, many rockets of desires that will serve you extremely well. You just have to sort of finally get to the place where you say enough. And we can feel that you're at that place. Enough. It's time for me to get control of my experience. And it doesn't help to say I should have done it sooner. And it doesn't help to say I'm not doing a very good job. And it doesn't help to say somebody else is doing better. None of that helps. In other words, that's just pouring salt into the wound. You just got to decide that you're going to soothe yourself. So what is it that you want? That, in other words, is there what's stuck in your craw that feels so uncomfortable? For example, give us one example.
For example, my health. I've created a situation where my diet is very limited for a short period of time. And I'm seeing that through my life, I used food as a way of control. When I felt things were out of control, I got that. So as I kept focusing on that being a sense of control for me, then I created something that actually physically manifested.
Well, we're happy to hear this word from you, because you know, this is the thing that Esther was grappling with too. It feels like I don't have control of things that I need control of. And the breakthrough that she has had on many occasions, but especially with this, is that there is no such thing as control, because control in the physical sense is about controlling conditions which you can't do. There aren't enough resources, and there's not enough of you, and there aren't enough cooperative others for you to ever maintain control of anything. That's a battle that you will never, ever, ever, ever win, you see. So instead of control, you say, I want to get in sync, or I want to get in the flow. I want to get in the flow of well-being. I want to go with the flow. So it's a different sort of way of looking at it. So then you say, so my life caused me to launch some rockets, and that's a flow. And Source joined those rockets and is calling me, that's a flow. And I can feel when I'm in the flow and not. So when you give up control, a lot of people talk about letting go. Mm-hmm. And they have argued, in light of what they've heard from us a little bit, that when we teach deliberate creating, that doesn't exactly feel like letting go. And we say, we talk mostly about the art of allowing, which really is letting go. It really is giving up control. It's giving up control to law of attraction. It's understanding that I can't offer a vibration that's over here and then control what's coming in response to that vibration. Instead, I've got to shift my vibration. So if you want to use the word control, use it in the proper context. The only control I have is control of the way I feel. Because controlling the way I feel is controlling my vibrational output, and controlling my vibrational output will get the results from law of attraction that I'm wanting. So we think that what's been happening to you, and you're certainly not alone in this, is that you've been attempting the impossible and then beating up on yourself for not succeeding at it.
I think I'm wanting to get control of my emotions versus having them be affected by other circumstances, other people.
Well, you know what you have to do that? You have to start saying until eventually you mean, I don't give a rip what anybody else thinks. Because if your emotions are all tied up with how you feel about how I feel, now you're in trouble. You're shaking your head. You don't think
it's not so much how they think, it's how they're feeling, and then I pick up on how they're feeling.
Well, that's because you care about how they feel. In other words,
it's
part of that wanting to maintain control. You're trying to control their response to you. You're trying to control their perspective of you. You're trying to control the way you affect them, you see. And you can't control that because the way they're feeling has so much less to do with you than you could ever imagine. It's really an interesting thing. Start paying attention to things that you are wanting to communicate. It is really not possible for you to make anyone really understand who you are, where you are, what you want in relationship with where you are. In other words, there's not another human on the planet as close as Jerry and Esther are. They are on different wavelengths relative to different subjects. They cannot purely communicate. And if Esther's happiness is dependent upon anybody else understanding, even someone as close to her as Jerry is, and that's what's happened to so many of you. You have relied on something that is not possible to make somebody understand so completely what you mean or what you want. And when they're not able to get it, you feel a sort of void or gap or loss of control. And what we're wanting you to understand is that when you give all of that up and the only control you ever try to seize, and we heard it from you just now and we love it, you want to control the way you feel. You want to control your emotions. And we want to say to you, you can do that. You can do that, but you have not yet given that a go. Not really, because you've been, like even Esther, been trying to factor too many others in on the process. And it is our promise to you that when it just finally comes down to this is how I feel and it doesn't feel that good, and I'm going to sit here with some process, doesn't really matter which one it is, and apply it until I notice that I feel better. Once you begin doing that, we promise you that you can move up that emotional scale. And if you do it consistently, you're going to give yourself back the control that you've been looking for. You're going to reach the place where you will finally know, I can make myself feel the way I deserve to feel. It just takes practice. And fortunately, there are so many people around you who give you opportunities to practice. And so many situations around you that give you opportunity to practice. We feel something very powerful with you. We do not feel that you are in any way trying to give anybody else credit for the way you feel. You're not blaming anyone but yourself. But you know, it'd be better if you were blaming somebody else than yourself, because it feels better to blame somebody else other than yourself. In other words, somehow along the line, we think that early on you might have been somebody who wanted so much to feel good and couldn't control circumstances. And so you began blaming those, and those that you were blaming said, oh no, little missy, you're not going to blame us. You're in charge of your life. It's your problem. It's your fault. And so what's happened to you and a lot of others of you, you have really taken it upon yourself to be determined to be responsible for what's not going well in your life experience. Yes. And we're wanting to say to you, you are the only one who can control this, but you've got to give yourself a break. You just got to give yourself a break. It feels better to give yourself a break than to hold yourself to the fire. It feels better to hope that things get better than to notice that they haven't been. It feels better to say, I know things now that I didn't know then, and nobody's keeping score anyway, you see. You're getting it. You're getting it faster than you're giving yourself credit.
Okay.
Get out.